What up? My name is Chris and this is Poker Chip video number 18. This is my lovely face, a face made for radio. I'm going to talk directly to you briefly here before we get into the Poker Chip stuff. We are talking about hosting your own home poker tournament. Now I'm sitting in my garage. In this garage I have hosted home tournaments now for going on 14 years. I average anywhere from 20 to 30 players depending on how busy people are that month. You are not invited, it's friends of friends only. However, I'm here to share with you my knowledge. I guess I'm sort of an expert at this point because my game has been very successful. I'm gonna give you three things in this video. Three things. One, the perfect starting stack. Two, the perfect poker chip breakdown. And three, the perfect blind structure if you want your poker tournaments to be successful. There's a couple of components that go with that. First of all, buy-in. It's important to keep it low, to keep it cheeseburger steaks. I mean, I recommend anywhere from $20 to $80. Any more than that, once you start getting into the hundreds and beyond, you might as well go to a card club, you might as well go to a casino. I also recommend not raking your game at all because why? There's lots of ways to make money and doing it illegally is not a good way. I have what I consider a perfect price point. It's $45, $40 for the poker tournament and $5 for a bounty chip. It really is a fun thing. It's a social thing. We're not here to beat each other up and we're not here to impress each other. We just are here for the fellowship and for the cards. That's where I'm coming from. Okay, so let's get to the chips. The perfect starting stack. I've been hosting since 2006, so it took me a while to get to this perfect number, this sweet spot, so to speak. When I first started, it was 1,500 in chips, and then it went to 5,000, and then 10,000, and then finally I realized players want to have a lot of play. They want a lot of starting chips. So we start with the 5Ks, we give them 2 5Ks, then we go to the yellows, the bananas. Hey, incidentally, these poker chips, the Aurora Stars, are beautiful. Aurora Star hot stamps. If you want the full lowdown on these chips, go to Poker Chip video number 7, I believe it is, for an up-close examination. Here we're just building the perfect starting stack. 6 bananas, 6 1Ks, 6 of these lovely grapes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we got 2, 6, and 6. That's 5Ks, 1Ks, and 500s. Then we got 8 each of the hundreds, 8 100s, and 8 25s, 8 quarters. There is your perfect starting stack. That is 20,000. T20,000. 2 5Ks, 6 1Ks, 6 500s, and 8 hundreds and 8 quarters. That is your perfect starting stack. Plus, I also give people 10% of this stack for showing up on time. That's another 2,000. Make sure you tell people, get here on time and you get a chip bonus. Then because my tournament is also $45, I give people an extra $500 for exact change. So they can start the tournament with as much as $22,500. Very important with the chip bonuses that you're strict, but don't be like crazy over it because you don't want people driving and killing themselves to get there on time. You tell people be on time and you'll get the bonus. And if you're not, you won't. Just that easy. 20,000 to start, 22,500 to start, and then I give 1 optional re-entry if you are felted. 1, that's it. And if you make it to the break and you have a micro stack, then you can also surrender your chips and re-enter. You get 1 of these. I don't like rebuy tournaments. Other people don't like rebuy tournaments. We stick with a single, one-time only optional re-entry. That's if you get coolered, you get unlucky, or if you just decide to play like a crazy person once, then you generally don't do it again. That's the perfect starting stack. Now, on to the perfect breakdown. One more thing about the perfect tournament starting stack. There are people on PokerChipForum.com who have a different opinion than moi when it comes to the stack breakdown. They prefer a 12-12-5-7-2 breakdown for a 20K starting stack. To me, 12 T25s and 12 T100s is just way too many chips to have on the table. It gets out of control. It is true that it's easier to make change with that breakdown, but that's really the only benefit. Everything else, especially for the host, it makes it more confusing. It bugs my OCD a little bit to have 12-12-5-7-2 instead of 8-8-6-6-2. Anyhow, That's just my opinion. There's definitely a strong school of thought for a different view. Make sure you go to pokerchipforum.com, check it out, become part of the community, learn and form your own opinion on these sorts of mundane, silly things. Anyway, let's move on to the perfect poker chip breakdown for a tournament, meaning how many chips should you own to host a poker tournament? I'm gonna let you know for a 1-table, 2-table, or 3-table poker chip tournament. Here we go.
Single table tournament, 10-handed, you only need 80 quarters, 80 hundreds, 65 hundreds, 61 Ks, and only 45 Ks, and that's it. You are good to go. If you are giving out bonus chips for being on time with a single table, you will need an extra barrel of 1Ks. Remember, don't forget. Also, if you're giving out bonus chips for exact change, you will need another half barrel of 500s. All right, if you have 2 tables, you are going to need 160 quarters. You're going to need 160 100s. You are going to need 120 500s. You're going to need 140 1Ks. I'll give you the reasons for the extra barrel in a minute. And I would recommend, just to be safe, especially if you have a bunch of people who re-enter and splash around a lot with 2 tables, 20 people, I would recommend at least 85K chips. That might be a little bit more than you need, but you always want to feel comfortable and safe. Don't forget, you want some extra 1Ks if you're doing on-time bonus chips. And don't forget, also, you want some extra 500s if you're doing exact change bonuses, like I recommend. So the extra 1K barrel also back here in the background, again, is just that little bit of cushion that you have, just to feel safe. Technically, you could get by with just 121 Ks. All right, and finally, if you're lucky enough to be hosting 3 tables on a regular basis, you are going to need 240 quarters. You're going to need 240 100s. You're also going to need 180 500s, which is kind of crazy. You are going to need 200 1Ks is the minimum. And I would also recommend, as the minimum for 5Ks, because now we're talking about a lot of coloring up and a lot of re-entries, 140 5K chips. Also, if you want to be super sexy, track down a barrel of 25K chips. This is assuming you have a big gambly group. You will need these at some point. And that's that. That's the breakdown for how many chips do I need. Feel free to rewind, pause, and think it over. These basically are the minimum requirements. Okay, let's talk about blind structures. There's a couple of things about blind structures that I want to point out. Well, first of all, let me put up my blind structure right here. This is a blind structure. Feel free to pause this because it probably won't be up long enough. This is a blind structure that I worked on probably over 4 or 5 years with a 20K starting stack to get it to the point where a tournament that is 2 to 3 tables will last on average about 5 hours, and you'll be getting to the money in just over 4 hours. I have a flat payout structure. I recommend paying more people, at least 20% of the field. I pay 25% of the field. I think that's the way to go. People want to make the money. I don't understand for the life of me why tournaments are so much more popular than cash games, because most people in a tournament, even when you have a very generous payout like I do at 25%, that means 3 out of 4 people walk out of this garage empty-handed, which is weird. But anyway, if you're doing a low stakes tournament at home, which is the only kind of stakes tournament I would recommend, like I said, anywhere from 20 to 100 bucks at the most. You should not have people in your house for longer than 5 or 6 hours, and certainly not playing that length of time and not making the money. Don't want people here till the sun comes up. So this is the system I worked, and I would not call this structure a turbo, but I would say that it gets you moving. There are no doubling of levels except between levels 1 and 2. If you have a full 3 tables, I would recommend getting rid of level 1 altogether. Keep the levels at 25 minutes and keep your breaks down to 10 minutes, and you'll get everybody out in 5 hours or so, maybe a little bit longer, depending on how nitty your group is once the money approaches and once the bubble bursts. This is what I recommend for a 20K starting stack. using quarters. I love using quarters. You'll also notice that there is a big blind ante. I think this is very important if you have 2 full tables or more. If you have less than 2 full tables, you can dispense with the antes. If you're coming up on 2 tables, I would say any more than 15 players, you want to use antes, and you want to use the big blind ante. It is so much better. Big blind ante, basically after the first break, all you're doing is you're doubling the big blind. Big blind in front and the same amount as an ante in the middle. Keep the big blind ante simple, keep it the same amount. Some people try to do the math thing and try to match it up. Mathematically, they've found if you just match the big blind, it basically will work out. If you do use the big blind ante like I do, that's great. Use the same starting stack, use the same chip breakdown. If you want to save some money on chips, you can get rid of the quarters and you can do a hundreds only stack. And then instead of 8 100s, you use 10. Here's the big blind ante using no quarters option. This is perfectly legit. You'll see there's a little bit more doubling of levels early on, but after that we are back to the same 3, 5, 8 progression, as opposed to the 3, 4, 6, 8 progression, which is more standard. Now, if you want a super deep tournament, that's really easy. Just go on WSOP.com and copy one of their structures and enjoy playing till 4 in the morning. If you want people to have fun and not feel like it's a turbo, but still, get things moving, then I highly recommend my structure, which I've spent a long time. It's pouring rain right now, which is going to kind of affect the audio, but that's cool. I like the rain. Anyway, I hope you've gotten stuff out of this. Please put your questions in the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe. The questions you put in the comments, I will do my best to answer, as I'm sure I've missed a detail here and there. Anyway, I'll see you next time for more Poker Chips. Peace.